You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Bad Batch recaps here on For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. It is Don and Andrew here once again to talk about Tribe, the 6th episode of the Bad Batch Season 2. We are a little bit late. We apologize. We had some scheduling issues this week, which I can get into. But if you're wondering, is this the first time you've talked about Bad Batch this week, at least for me? No, it is not, because the reason we kept having to push it back is because I was a guest this week on the Nerd Academy's Knights of the Nerd Republic. That is the podcast that our fellow co-host Connor hosts with Jared. It was my first time being on there. I was really excited to talk about the Bad Batch. We just talked about all of Season 2 so far, specifically this most recent episode. Connor, fresh off of his Star Wars Explained appearance, which was a joy for all of us to be able to see that.
Busy week for our boy.
Yeah, busy week for Connor. So Connor, understandably, was not free to be on this week. But it's the two of us. I loved this episode, so I'm very excited to talk about it again.
Same.
How are you doing?
I'm buzzing to talk. I've had a really good week, man. I've been keeping up with The Last of Us. Really good show. I haven't played any of the games, but I've just really been enjoying everything happening there.
I haven't played the games either, but I really want to start watching the show because I hear it's tremendous.
Pedro Pascal is absolutely terrific in this, and the third episode, I can see why so many people are talking about it. It's a very poignant story. I'll say that. And to be on more specific Star Wars stuff, I've been trying to get through this bad boy because I have a feeling that there's going to be another one of these coming out soon. Because this year, because this year is 40 years on from Return of the Jedi, and they like to release these to coincide with a 40th anniversary. They did it for A New Hope, they did it for Empire. So I'm kind of thinking at Celebration we'll get from a certain point of view, Return of the Jedi story, anthology announced. Yeah, which would be really cool.
I think it's coming, and I'm very excited because there's a bunch of different characters that I think would be tremendous stories in that book. Not only ones that are in the movie, but characters that we got retroactively introduced to afterwards that I think would be really awesome. And I wonder if it's finally going to decide is that Rex at the Battle of Endor, or is that Nick Sant?
That would be so cool though, if you have a story that's just the two of them tag teaming on the
it's like how with the New Hope one, I think they got rid of the whole the Wedge versus fake Wedge thing.
Yeah,
that was a thing on Legends.
That was a thing.
Did it here because Wedge is played by two different actors in A New Hope.
Yes, because his voice is dubbed.
Yeah, his voice is dubbed. In his first scene, he's played by it's not Dennis Lawson that plays.
Yes, the guy who goes, that's impossible even for a computer. That's a different guy.
Which I didn't realize until my most recent watch of A New Hope that was supposed to be Wedge. And then I think I was watching Star Wars Explained, and they brought up fake Wedge in one of the Q&As. I'm like, let me just look up this fake Wedge, and because I have no idea what this is because I've always heard about it. And then I was like, oh, wait, hold on. That was supposed to be Wedge Antilles? And then, what do you know? Here we go. So my knowledge has expanded. But same. I know that Rex controversy, if you want to call it, has blown up again recently on Twitter because of some Black Series announcements. It's well, is that not supposed to be Rex now? And it's we know Rex is at the Battle of Endor, but is he Star Wars Santa? We'll find out.
Okay. I have 3 list stories that I would want to see. The first would be the Rex story, like you said. The second would be a story from the Ghost's perspective, because we know that Hera fought in the Battle of Endor. So just a short story showing her participating there would be awesome. The third story would be from Anakin's perspective. Maybe we see him reuniting with Obi-Wan and Yoda and the Force. That would be
tremendous.
Just get Claudia Gray to write that. I feel she would crush it.
I think an Ahsoka one is also very possible. Potentially her seeing Anakin's Force ghost for the first time, or like feeling in the Force, or like getting the feeling in the Force that he's returned to the light side. That would be. I don't know if they're going to want to have that the first time that happens be in a book, but it would be, especially like an anthology short story type of book. But it would be so good. I mean, we're getting a moment like that in Ahsoka. Like I just know it.
And it's going to destroy us all.
It's going to. The minute I hear Hayden say, "Hey, Snips," I'm done. Like that's just. There's no coming back everything. For that. That's the end for me here. But before
voices. Sorry,
voices cried out in pain. But before we get into, actually, hold on. Before we talk about this, I just want to say, speaking of Star Wars related stuff for me, I've actually been diving back into Lego Skywalker Saga for the first time in a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've been experimenting with the most recent DLC packs, so I got to play as Bix, which was fun. The old the Ben Kenobi on Tatooine is just I love it. It's great. I'm still going through the story though. I just finished up Empire, so I'm slowly getting through it. So I'm about to start Return of the Jedi. I did notice like the original trilogy, like the levels at least go by much faster than the prequel ones, because it took me quite a bit to finish the prequel episodes, like at least a couple sessions. I was done with Empire like within like 2 hours of playing, and that was like doing some exploration on the side and trying to get some Kyber bricks. But I just found it weird because like Empire's first 3 levels are like boom, 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 and 2 of them are ship levels. So, and those tend to go by pretty fast. So,
which is probably why, the ship levels are very brisk.
Yeah, but I'm definitely excited to play the sequels. One, because I never played Lego Force Awakens. I have it, but I've never played Lego Force Awakens. So like those are the ones that I'll like experience in Lego form for the first time, because I have a childhood's worth of playing complete Saga and the original 2 games. So I'm having a lot of fun with the game. I didn't touch it for a while, but I'm having fun with it, and the one thing I'm really looking forward to is once I finish the story mode and I can just full on do the galaxy exploration, which I think I'm going to have a blast with, and hopefully I'll be able to do some streams with. But now, before we talk about Bad Batch, we're real quickly going to talk about the big news in Star Wars animation this week, which is the Season 2 slate for Star Wars Visions has officially been revealed. The episode titles and the studios that are going to be working on each project have been revealed. And because I love Visions Season 1 so much, that was just, it's great to see. I'm so excited that even though it looks like we're going to be going in a bit of a different direction this season, not necessarily having continuations of some of the stories that we thought we might have had continued on in Season 1, at least for now, I'm still very excited. So Don, I know you mentioned having the list brought up, so if you just want to go through them real quick, and then we can talk about some of the studios and stuff like that and what sticks out to us.
So so obviously, like, in case anyone wasn't aware before, whereas like Season 1 was entirely anime studios from Japan, for this season Lucasfilm have opened it up more globally, and every episode is by a different animation studio in a different part of the world. So that includes El Guiri. I'm probably going to mispronounce some of these, so I apologize to anyone if I'm offending anyone with my pronunciations. There's El Guiri from Spain, Cartoon Saloon from Ireland, Punk Robot from Chile, Pedro Pascal's where Pedro Pascal was born, Aardman Animations from United Kingdom, Studio Mer from South Korea, Studio La Cachette from France, 88 Pictures from India, Dart Shitagio from Japan, the one Japanese studio this time, and Triggerfish from South Africa. That's the entire slate.
So that's
studios.
The slate. The Japanese one is the one that Lucasfilm is going to also have development with, because that one Justin Ridge, who was the showrunner for Resistance, and he directed episodes of Rebels and Clone Wars, is co-directing that one. Admittedly, there are several studios here that this is my first time hearing of them, but I know doing a little bit of research. Aardman, obviously, I know for Wallace and Gromit and stuff like that. So
Chicken Run and Flushed
Away. I'm very interested in seeing if they're going to go with that type of style.
Yeah,
in Star
like
Wars.
the claymation type thing.
Yeah.
I am so like. Can I just say, like, because I obviously grew up with Aardman stuff. I've watched Chicken Run so many times. I love Wallace and Gromit. They're such a They're almost such a quintessentially British thing. They're so part of British popular culture. Aardman. It's so wild to me. I never would have conceived the idea of Aardman doing a Star Wars, and I'm so excited to see what kind of story they're going to pursue. Is it going to be more comical? Are they actually going to go into more serious territory? Because they're fully capable of it. Like Chicken Run is comedic, but there's some dark shit in that movie for sure. And the title is "You Are My Mother," which is so intriguing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like are we gonna get like "I Am Your Father" flipped on its head?
Yeah.
I'm very
another one I'm excited for, by the way, is Cartoon Saloon, because they're the Irish studio who did the movie Wolfwalkers, which I haven't seen, but I really want to, because the animation is just gorgeous, and I'd love to see that animation applied to Star Wars.
I'm excited about that one. I know there's another one. I don't remember which
Studio Mir,
it was. Studio Mir was the one that worked on Legend of Korra. So that is really exciting for me personally, because this is a Last Airbender Funko. It's not a Legend of Korra Funko.
Oh, that's so cool. Is that Prince Zuko? My brother has one of those. It's so cool.
So
I'm still into season 1 of The Last Airbender. I need to catch up. It's such a good show, though.
Last Airbender is my favorite show of all time, and Korra is in my top 10. So, like, I am very excited about this one, getting to see that type of animation and storytelling in Star Wars. I think is going to be tremendous.
Absolutely.
Because I watched third shout out of Star Wars Explained in this episode. But I watched their Vision Season 2 preview yesterday, and I don't remember which studio it was, but one of them has worked a lot with Genndy Tartakovsky. So
that's Lacachette.
That's Lacachette. Okay.
Yeah, they worked on Primal, his latest series,
So
which I haven't seen, but
they were speculating that if that one is in the style of 2003 Clone Wars, that will make several people on this panel very, very excited.
I'm so nostalgic. Well, this year is the 20th anniversary of Clone Wars, of 2003 Clone Wars.
So that one,
we're
the
gonna have
Spy
to cover
Dancer.
that.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to cover that. But these are all going to be dropping on May 4th. So May the 4th, we have our Vision Season 2 present. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to cover this one. And then we're probably going to want to retroactively go back and talk about Season 1 before we get to Season 2. So when we get closer to figuring out what we're going to do with that, we will let you all know. But we are going to have a very good time talking about this. I love Visions. I love how creative it was, and getting to see Star Wars in this new light. It's certain things like you said, never would have expected Aardman to do a Star Wars, but here we are. I'm really wondering if there's going to be like a deep cut, like Easter egg of like Chicken Run or Wallace and Gromit.
It's like Gromit just like knitting in the background of like a cantina. That would just like make my day. It really
someone
would.
That's very clearly Gromit, but like it's
got like alien shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like
so he looks like an alien. Like a Klatooinian version of Gromit.
That would be fantastic. But that won't happen because there's no Easter eggs. Especially
no Easter eggs in Star Wars and politics.
None.
And no bricks. No bricks ever. Or screws.
No screws. I can't. I watched A New Hope and there was bricks, and I had a little bit of a meltdown because I wasn't prepared for it after I was told that there weren't any. The one thing I am shocked about is, speaking of studios we never thought we'd see working on Star Wars, but I remember when the Grogu short came out that Studio Ghibli worked on, that a lot of people were saying, and me included, that this was potentially going to be just a tease and then we would get Ghibli working on Vision Season 2. That is not the case yet. So I was a little bit bummed to not see them on the list, because seeing Ghibli do a full-fledged Star Wars would just be incredible. But I am very excited to see all these different studios working on them. I'm only, like I said, I'm only familiar with about 4 or 5 of them out of the 9, and some of them are just very brief, like I've heard the name of the studio before, or I know one of the things they've worked on. But I love animation, so I'm very excited.
The only thing I'll say about the Ghibli thing as well, Studio Ghibli, is I wonder if they're holding something back again for Celebration. Like they're going to announce a big Studio Ghibli project, because I feel like, given their stature and the amount of animation they've produced, I feel like you can't just restrict Studio Ghibli to like an episode of Visions. I feel like if they're going to collaborate, it's probably going to be for something much bigger, like a fully fledged film that would actually take place in the canon.
Tremendous.
Grogu and Mando make a lot of sense as subject material for that, or just anything with Jedi and Force related, because their films. I mean, I've only seen a couple of Studio Ghibli films, but they're very masterfully made. They're very they're very meditative, which it suits Star Wars down to the ground, obviously. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see if we see any more.
Yeah, I would love to see something that focuses more on or goes deep into the cosmic force, or like Force ghosts. That would be so cool.
I'd love to see that.
But we'll see. We'll see. Either way, very hyped for Visions and our hopefully inevitable Gromit cameo in the background of I Am Your Mother. But now let's get into Tribe. Real quickly, I need to just say, if you want my thoughts on this episode summed up, it's just this clip.
I could get used to this.
Oh, I love it.
Look.
Oh, I love. That's my favorite part of the whole episode. Wrecker just like garbling Shirut and like slurping Wookiee soup and just palling it up with his Wookiee bros. I love it. I'd watch a whole episode of that. It's so good.
This episode was. I mean, you have been here for my struggles the last 2 weeks of being like, yeah, I liked it. But this week, it felt so good to just be like, okay, now I remember why I love this show. Is because the saber died. Unfortunate, but that now it reminds me of why I love the Bad Batch, and I said this in the standalone video that I did on this episode that I will talk about at the end of our episode. But when this show hits for me, it really, really hits. And that's why I love this show and in these characters. So, again, it is upsetting that we had to wait like almost a full week until we got to talk about this in full. But I'm very excited to talk about this. So we start off, and the Batch are like in the midst of this black market deal with these droid captors. They're getting some like parts for Sid or something, and it's just like, all right, cool. And then we have Hunter and Hunter and Echo were closing in on the deal, or was it Wrecker?
It was Wrecker and Hunter, and it was pretty much Hunter. Echo is watching Omega, I believe, and then Omega hears a cry for help, and Echo just winds up following her. Which makes a lot of sense because, it makes sense that Echo is the one who sort of follows Omega into this, because Echo has been the group's moral conscience and the one that is often saying we can't, we need to do more than just make these back alley deals and work with Sid. We need to be doing more with our abilities, and we see them actually get to do this here, which is great.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then Omega hears this, like you said, she hears this cry for help. And we end up seeing a Wookiee youngling who looks very familiar to some of us, and it's my son. It's Gungi, and I was just even though I think we all knew that like when we knew that this was going to be a Kashyyyk episode, it's like that this was going to be Gungi, but just to finally see him again and get that point where he sees his saber on like the hilt of one of, or like the belt of one of the droids, and he just uses the force and then boom, ignite, and we just hear him roar. I was like, yes! It was, even though we've seen it in the trailers, it was such a cool moment to see it play out in the episode. And then just having the realization that, wait, hold on, this is a Jedi, like that. It's like at that moment they go from like, oh, it's just a captive Wookiee, which sadly they've probably seen a bunch in their life, especially in the age of the Empire, where Wookiees were just consistently enslaved. But to see this one just boom, pull out a lightsaber and start using the Force, and they're like, whoa, this is different, and it's like, we got to help out. And seeing Omega just immediately be like, we have to help this Wookiee. Like, just met him 5 seconds ago. And it's like, she's the heart of this whole episode. It's like, we need to make sure that he's safe and that we help him so that they escape on the Marauder. This deal blows up in their face. I was expecting the droid cartel to come back at some point in this episode and like hunt them down on Kashyyyk, and that would have been like the big thing at the end instead of the Trandoshan forces. But I'm actually kind of glad we didn't, because it's just like, okay, we got him out of here. Now we're gonna do our own story, and we get to hit on a lot of personal story beats. Yeah, so
they were pretty threatening, though. Like, for such a brief appearance, the Vanguard Axis droids, they were surprisingly threatening, and I feel like a lot of that has to do with their design. They're very bulky and aggressive. And I also want to point out as well, so the deal they were making with the batch were actually giving them fake chain codes. Sorry, they were trying to give them counterfeit chain codes so they could fool sensors. And I think it's really funny that we're only like a season away. Like, this isn't too long after the Empire introduced chain codes to the galaxy, and already people are trying to get around it because, of course, because the Empire's authority is so brittle, as in Andor, that people are immediately trying to find ways around it. And I just think it's so funny that Tech is the one who did it, because it reminds me of like when they snuck onto that Imperial base and Tech accidentally alerted everyone, and which I know must have just like really stuck in his craw. So I imagine there's a little bit of Tech that's like taking some satisfaction in like fooling the Empire's machinery after it initially confounded him.
Yeah, no, that was great. So they escape off in the Marauder, and we get some really great moments. First of all, you had Gungi afraid of the clones at first, because and they have that great moment. It's like, well, the clones tried to hunt down all of his people. So and that can double as both the Wookiees and the Jedi. So, because we saw in Revenge of the Sith that they just cleared out like a whole bunch of Wookiees, which was just
all these Wookiees are dead.
All these Wookiees are dead. It's like, I just remember seeing that in the first movie. I was the first time I watched it. I was like, are Chewie and Tarful the only Wookiees left that are like alive? Because my brain, when I watched it when I was younger, I was like, did they kill all of these Wookiees?
It's like that bit in Return of the Jedi where you see there's that one Ewok that gets killed, and the other one tries to roll him, and it feels horrible to watch because they're so cuddly looking in a way. And it's a similar thing with Chewie, because they're obviously very powerful and intimidating Wookiees, but they're also very they're almost very kid friendly, because they're like these big furry monsters that look like that are based on dogs. So there's something horrible about seeing the way they're taken advantage of. But that whole scene with the Batch and Gungi was very affecting, because like the fear, you understand the fear that Gungi is going through, and the look on Hunter and the rest of the Batch's face, the kind of sense of almost shame they feel, because they understand his fear, and there's almost a sense of how can we get him to trust us, because we literally, our people, our kind, the clones, literally did try and hunt down his people. They've killed so many of his people, and I think it's really interesting that we don't get any backstory with Gungi about like where he has been, how he survived Order 66 initially, and like why he's no longer with that group of younglings, because we never
Yeah.
saw any of them assigned to a master. The last we saw of them, they're training with Terra Sunube in the season 5 finale, and they're all still together. So did they get separated? Are they like, did any of them get killed? Maybe it's an interesting. I think it's interesting that we're not told anything, because I feel like they're saving that kind of information for later.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. Also terrified that our beloved Katuni may have died off screen and we don't know it yet. But again, it was great to see the little lad again. And like you said, just having that mystery of like he doesn't share how he escaped. We just know that he's been fighting on his own for a while and end up getting captured by the Vanguard Axis. But I love him. Like I said, Gungi and Omega's relationship is just the whole heart of this episode. How immediately the two of them have this connection, and then Hunter's lines later in the episode about how they're both kids, just stripped away of their homes. They don't know what a home is. They don't know how to survive, or they're trying to learn how to survive in this new galaxy that's taken everything from them. And hopefully that they'll be able to escape war, the both of them. And I think Jared, Connor, and I had this conversation on nights of, people aren't calling this episode filler as opposed to episode 4 and episode 5. Whereas this one also could be considered its own standalone thing. I would not throw the filler label on this one, not just because it's got a character we're familiar with, but also I just feel everything that happened in this episode on Kashyyyk is going to further and further lead into the batch getting out of what they're trying to do, getting away from Sid, and hopefully, well, I think they're at some point, or at first at least, going to try to just completely get away from the Empire entirely. I think they're going to realize that the only way they can escape the Empire is if they fight them back, because they're always going to be on their trail, and there's no real way you can escape them, because they're always going to be coming. But again, these scenes on the ship I thought were so important, and they were so just, they got me right here, because I'm like, we know Gungi, like, from the one Clone Wars arc, but we haven't seen the character in 10 years, and I think there's just something about every time we see a Wookiee Jedi, we're just immediately attached to them, and to give him this just like backstory, not knowing what happened to his friends, it hurts. But them bringing him back to Kashyyyk and having these moments of like, yes, this is the home of the Wookiees, but like, is it Gungi's home? Like, there are lines like he doesn't remember what his original village were. He only has seen Kashyyyk really in dreams, because he was taken to Coruscant like really like when he was a baby. So obviously it's his home world, but is it really his home? Like, his home was the Jedi, his home was the temple, and that's gone forever. So he's got to find a new home and be taken in by this new tribe of Wookiees, which one of them was who did Yana, the
Shelby Young
chieftain. Shelby
voiced.
Young, yes. So again,
I'd like to just come in because like
up.
Same. I see. I'm really glad you brought up the whole idea of like Gungi rediscovering his home, Andrew, because that's another part of the story that I think really resonates, because we've been seeing a lot more exploration of like the Jedi being taken from their families. Like we had that moment in Obi-Wan in chapter 3 when he tells Leia about, he only has distant memories of his family. He doesn't really remember his home all that much, and how it clearly still weighs on him a little bit, as much as he found a new family with the Jedi. And we've seen it with Ahsoka as well in Tales of the Jedi, when we saw the whole background she came from, and how well fleshed out it was. We've never seen a Jedi reconnect with their homeworld outside of maybe Anakin, and Anakin didn't have a lot of love for Tatooine because, like,
No.
he had a horrible existence there. He was a slave. He had to work in a shop all day.
And
But
Anakin was on Tatooine way longer than most other Jedi were because he started his training so late.
So he didn't have anything to miss, really, aside from his mother.
Exactly. He has the most memories of his mother, whereas, like, I just want to real quickly bring up that scene in Chapter 3 of Kenobi, where he describes, like, dreams of he might have had a brother, and he slightly has these memories of his family.
Oh, he definitely had a brother. There's like that could just be a reference to the Return of the Jedi draft where Owen was his brother. Yeah. But I think they've put that in there because they want to seed the idea that there's more Kenobis out there, so that they have an excuse to seed Obi-Wan into future stories more. It makes the most sense to me, at least from like a franchise point of view. But I really like the idea of like Gungi having to reconnect with his culture, and I love how he has like, he has to go on instinct. Like when that Wookiee puts his hand to the tree, he has to just like go off the instinct, and he instinctively is able to tap into that because of his connection with the Force. And it's just a really beautiful way of showing that the Force, that the Force isn't just the Jedi, which is an idea we explored in The Last Jedi. That to say that the light, if the Jedi die, the light dies, is vanity. And the Force does not belong to the Jedi. To see how it actually connects people of different backgrounds, different cultures, and how it helps bridge someone who is an outsider in his own culture. It's a really lovely thing to get to explore.
I love whenever we get to see the Force tackled in different ways in different cultures. Yeah. I think that's why The Village Bride is such a great story for me, going back to Visions Season 1, is getting to see the Force referred to in a different way, in a different culture, but it still brings all these people together, the natives of the planet, as well as the rogue Jedi. Like, it was just so great to see in that episode, and then just to tell such a beautiful story. But to see it here, I loved it, and all the stuff with the trees and just describing how sacred the trees are to the Wookiees on Kashyyyk, I loved. And weirdly, this is just specific to me, but right before I watched this episode on Tuesday, I watched for the first time in a long time James Cameron's Avatar. So to see that movie and see how specific it is to how sacred the big tree in that movie is, and how sacred the forest is to the world, to the Na'vi people, it was almost like a perfect companion to what we saw in this episode with the tribe on Kashyyyk.
Absolutely.
Another thing I want to bring up in this episode is something I talked about both times I've talked about tribe this week. But I love how this episode handles the references to the Kashyyyk arc that we never got to see in the Clone Wars. To where they both adapted it, but also made it clear that that story has happened. And that these are two new stories. So, like, for those that don't know, there was supposed to be a arc of the Clone Wars where Yoda and the Batch were going to go to Kashyyyk on this mission that was going to give depth to Yoda's good relation with the Wookiees I have line from Revenge. Because we need, as we've discovered in Clone Wars, any throwaway line in the prequels, we need an episode about. Case in point, Anakin's "Are you an angel?" line, which ended up getting some backstory in the Blue Shadow Virus episodes, which we just talked about
10 minutes. A couple weeks ago.
It's the
such a wild thing still.
10 minutes, go to the planet, 10-second angel scene, and then they never show up again.
In any form of Star Wars.
It's so weird, but it's just the most George Lucas thing. I was like, wait, hold on real quick. We just get the angel in here. And it's such a detailed
Studio
model,
Ghibli.
too.
If you're working on a Star Wars story, do something with the angels. They're right up your alley. Trust me.
They would definitely do such a thing. But we needed that, of course. And then the Wookiees the Wookiees would have rode the creatures that we see in this episode, the giant like cat beast things, with the batch.
So cool.
They're so cool looking.
They're like
And
a World of Warcraft mount. They're just awesome. I would
only
love to see those things in more
ever
stuff.
seen the animatics briefly, but when we saw the Wookiee chieftains like show up on those creatures in this episode, I was like, yes, it's that thing. I was like, I just got so excited. They were going to fight Trandoshans, and there was going to be more depth about the Wookiees' relationship with the trees. So yeah, that sounds real familiar. That a lot of the themes of this episode were incorporated there, but I love how the batch, when they were going to Kashyyyk, were like, "Oh, it's been a while since we've been to Kashyyyk," and I was like, So it was like a little tidbit and like a little bonus for like those Clone Wars fanatics that like scoured the web for lost Clone Wars stories when Clone Wars got canceled. And I still think a lot of people don't know that even though we got season 7, there were at least another season or 2 planned of arcs that we never got to see. Some of them were adapted into like Dark Disciple or the Son of Dathomir comic, but a lot of them we just know in these like weird animatics. Some of them have been completely released, like the Crystal Crisis one, but others we just have short scenes or concept art or just descriptions. So
there's that one scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan talking about Ahsoka that got upscaled like by a fan into like 3D animation, which is very
with like
good.
the either Unreal Engine or like the Battlefront 2 engine or something. So like to see that was awesome. But I hope that one day we'll be able to see those brought to life. Disney Plus is a thing, so I don't know why they wouldn't. But to get these little references, I loved, and every time they've done stuff like this, I've really appreciated when they just give us a little reference to not retcon that Kashyyyk arc just got placed in the Bad Batch, but to say, okay, we had a similar arc like this before that you guys just have not seen, to show that the Batch are familiar with Kashyyyk and are familiar with the Wookiees, which is what I loved. I loved that like Hunter like knew some Shri Wookiees, like, oh, my Wookiee's a bit rusty, but I think his name is Gungi. And then Wrecker later on in the episode, it's just so I love it so much.
See, I'd like to see D. Bradley Baker, like the B-roll of him recording that, because it's like when the Suicide Squad came out and everyone just wanted to see Sylvester Stallone just like recording that footage, going just running around. I'd love to see that, both of those footage, but both footage of those, because they're just so funny. It's such a funny idea just to like see Wrecker just bonding with the Wookiees, and I also liked the inclusion of the Trandoshans as well. Oh yeah. I almost skipped over what you were saying about the unplanned arcs, because what I'll say briefly about that is, aside from just agreeing with everything you said, because I love that we're getting all these references to these unfinished stories. But I also think it's interesting that they keep doing it, that they have repeatedly reinforced, just like with the Legends stories, that there's always some truth in Legends, which they've done over and over again in very, very not subtle. But they've very much repeatedly kind of gone, oh, these stories happened. Like, here's Cad Bane's metal plate to show that the story between him and Boba happened. You got it again about that in the book of Boba Fett. They even referenced the standoff with Bane's first appearance. And I almost kind of wonder if like this is because they are maybe toying with the idea of adapting these as like Disney Plus specials, or like, just like self-contained animated films, because I could see that being done as like a Disney Plus exclusive, like kind of like how they have Disney Plus exclusive live action films. I could see them doing that. But
the problem is some of those are going to be like 7 episodes long, so they would have to tackle them in a unique way.
That's the challenge,
of where it's not just like, okay, how do we do this where it isn't just another full-on season of the Clone Wars.
Another reference was the Kinrath nest as well, I noticed.
Yes.
Which was really interesting.
Because they were going to be in that episode too, and then they were originally from Knights of the Old Republic. Now, originally I was like,
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Me neither. I looked into it because I haven't played KOTOR, to be completely transparent here.
I made it to Dantooine, but then my laptop just completely wouldn't run the Dantooine stuff, so I just stopped from there.
Oh no. Yeah, I have it on Steam. I've had it for years. I just haven't started it yet. But originally I was like, is that a Fallen Order reference? Because I was like, hold on, Connor, which one of these creatures showed up in Jedi Fallen Order?
I thought for sure it was going to be the Weeshok spiders because I didn't know about the Kinrath. I only thought there was one type of spider on Kashyyyk. Turns out there's multiple types, and they're both
giant
very
spiders.
terrifying.
Yeah,
It's like the little face tendril things. They were very creepy. I like how they have a different kind of design, but they still kind of feel like they fit on that world with the kind of like with the architecture of Kashyyyk and the whole environment. They're very creepy looking, and I liked the idea that Gungi was able to connect with them because I immediately thought of Ahsoka or Ezra.
Yeah. Oh,
which I feel like he would get. I feel like Gungi would be best buds with Ezra.
I do love whenever we see someone use the Force to commune with animals.
It's beautiful.
It's something I love, like the Grogu, the Rey, the Ezra, the Ahsoka. You can keep going. Obi-Wan briefly did it in the Ryloth arc, which we haven't gotten to yet. But again, I love whenever you see that, even in its earliest forms. I just really love that, and that's the one thing I hope we can do in Jedi Survivor is find a way to get around the needing to kill all these animals to gain experience and just have enemies in each overworld. But the one thing I do love about Kashyyyk is it's such a big and beautiful planet. But the one thing I love is like it feels different every time we go there, which is so weird for a returning planet. Like it in Revenge of the Sith is different than we saw it in Fallen Order, and how we saw it in Fallen Order is different than we saw it in this episode of Bad Batch. It just shows the wildlife of the planet and the different, like it's not just Wookiees. We have, like you said, the Kinrath spiders. We have those giant beasts.
The Weeshok spider,
the Weeshok spiders. We have there's Trandoshans that keep showing up and being dicks, and it's just like every time I see more Trandoshans now, I'm just reminded what an absolute Chad Skier is from the High Republic stuff. Oh yeah.
He's the one good apple amongst seemingly a entire batch of like bad apples that are the Trandoshans.
I wondered, and this was discovered in the in Connor and Jared's live stream with Alex and Molly. It's like, since a Trandoshan, if you look closely in her office, there seems to be some kind of like a Wookiee pelt in her office or some kind of...
I was there for that. That was wild. I was like...
Is that going to be the deal breaker for good old Omega?
I joked in the comments that Jared had like cancelled Sid. It's like, yeah, the batch just like come back
every day.
The batch just like come back to the office and Sid's just like rapidly scurrying to get the pelt off behind the wall.
Omega's just like, oh yeah, we ran into these Trandoshans.
Crippet, I gotta get this Wookiee pelt off the wall before the kid sees it.
And that's just gonna be just the end of Sid and Omega right there. It's like, that's my friend.
Sid, that's my... I have friends. I have good relations with the Wookiees now.
Oh God, good relations with the Wookiees I have. It's like, no, you can't say that. That's someone else's line.
There's only one other person who says that, and he looks like a little green imp. I've only met him once.
Oh God.
Yoda and Sid. Do you think Yoda ever interacted with Sid?
I feel like it wouldn't have been a pleasant interaction if they did.
No, yeah. I feel like if Yoda... I feel like if Yoda would interact with anyone like who's with a shady background, it would probably be Mars because she's a lot more more on the light side of things.
Yoda and Maz definitely had their interactions, I would think, but like Sid would have just immediately been like, "Why is this guy talking like this? I need to get as far away from him as humanly possible."
Yeah.
But I love the scenes when we eventually do see that the Trandoshans are on Kashyyyk and they're working with the Empire. The Empire in this show, I was shocked. I was like, oh, they're finally back. I was like, oh. Here we go. 2 episodes of not having them and they're back, and it was only a couple clones.
And I think that's why this isn't like being considered a filler episode as well by a lot of people, because we're seeing more of the world building with the Empire kind of digging its claws into the galaxy. Like we know obviously that from like previous works that the Empire is going to ravage Kashyyyk. They're going to put bases up there. They're going to sell. They're going to send a lot of poor Wookiees into slavery, and it's we get a nice victory here, but it does sort of make the episode more poignant with that knowledge, because this is a small victory won amidst a bigger tragedy that's happening, and we're also seeing the Empire already start to cut deals with shady individuals like the Trandoshans, like they're outsourcing all of the work that that they would normally do to the Trandoshans, who have beef with the Wookiees. And I also liked the fact that the Trandoshans have separatist tanks, the AAT tanks, but they've been branded with the Empire symbol. The Empire has literally co-opted the bones of their enemies and are using them to suppress people. It reminds me of how in Andor they weaponize the screams of dying alien children for torture. It's like that. Yeah, the whole thing. Like that's. I think Andor has definitely made me appreciate just more how terrifying, as banal and yet terrifying the Empire is as like a construct. It's just. And this episode just furthers it, really. You have that horrible scene where like the Trandoshans are burning those Wookiee statues, or like that clearly means something to the culture. And even like
we don't know what they mean.
Yeah,
but
and we never will, because they're gone. And Gungi,
we just see Gungi just freak out and get the saber out again, and Omega helps him out. And those were just great moments every time the two of them work together. But we definitely do see just the disregard to other cultures and disdain for non-humanoid species that is just present throughout almost all Imperial stories that we have so far. But I did love the point you brought up about how they weaponize separatist tanks to their own gain and use them as Imperial tanks. It's like we see like the Empire's relationship with these old separatists stuff, where like even it's different even in this season. Solitary Clone, we had like, oh, the Separatists going up against the Empire, where it's supposed to be like mirroring an old Clone Wars battle. But like this time, it's like we're kind of rooting for the Separatists in a way. But we still see the clones going up against all these old Separatist technology, tanks and everything. To see them again in this episode, but rebranded as, okay, we're going to make these our own now. So it's like we're going to pick and choose what we want from the Separatists and what we just want to throw away. So I just love the way that they keep changing what the Separatist like image is, which I just really love and appreciate. But when we get to the scenes where they first get away from the Trandoshans and the group of Wookiees shows up, and we get is it Yana? I keep forgetting the name.
Yana is the name of the Wookiee chieftain. I really liked her.
I liked her a lot, and it's not just because it was Shelby Young voicing her, which again I was like, this girl's got range. Like she can just do a Wookiee. She
can do Sherry Wook. That's
exactly.
It's so good. It's so good.
But when we go back,
I like that it was an original character, because it would have been very easy to have it be Tarful.
Yeah, I thought I thought the one Wookiee like warrior was Tarful at first.
Yeah,
but I'm assuming it's not, because they never said who it was, and I think they would have been like, oh, that's Chief Tarful. He's leading the Kashyyyk uprising. But
it kind of the Wookiees on Tiger Back, they kind of reminded me of the strategy game Galactic Battlegrounds, because I played that a lot as a kid, and one of the sides you can use is the Wookiees, and there's like a whole thing of like the Wookiees, and they have different mounts, but you have like mounted troopers and like the on foot troopers, and it was a really fun game, and it definitely made me interested in Wookiee culture. So I definitely felt fed as a fan of the culture there.
I want to play that game eventually, because I've been meaning to play one of the strategy games for a while.
It's on Steam. It's very fun.
That and Empire War are both on there, but I'm like, because I want like a Fire Emblem style game like in Star Wars, and I'm trying to figure out which one would be the most similar to like that type of tactical strategy. I'm like, that's my dream game right there. So I'm like, Lucasfilm, make one of these already, or like whoever's doing your games right now, EA or Lucasfilm Games, do it. Like, I need something here.
Do it. An XCOM style Star Wars game would be pretty.
That would be sweet. That would
Yeah.
be very, very sweet. Just more Star Wars RPGs is all I'm asking for.
Yeah.
Like feed me. But these scenes, like in the the tribe village, and not only do we get, but also like we're just seeing them bond with the Wookiees and seeing them like, because originally they were like, oh, we're like we can't help them, but then to just see Echo like be the voice of reason again, and having the batch help the Wookiees fight off these Trandoshans. I just loved, and I, like I said, I felt that was them taking again their next step to becoming who they're really supposed to be. And
Absolutely.
someone made that point. It's like, oh, are we ever going to see the Bad Batch like succeed in a treasure hunt? And it's like, I don't think we're supposed to.
Because it's not
like,
what they're supposed to be
they're
doing.
not supposed to be doing that. So every time they're trying to do something like superficial or like to motivate just greed or profit, they're failing. But every time that they are doing something important, they succeed. I think this is going to be the big thing. I love that this episode.
It's like in the Return of the Mandalorian episode where Din tries to go back to bounty hunting, and he sort of succeeds, but like it's not a clean thing. It's a messy mission that he goes on. Then he winds up injuring himself, and just because he's not really built for that life anymore. He's grown beyond it, and he's not thriving in that environment the way he used to. And it's the same with the Bad Batch, where they're just scraping by, and they're not really. The reason that we're getting this message over and over again is because we're getting reinforced that, oh, they're not meant for this, and they're slowly coming around to it. And you can tell, because when Echo says we have to help the Wookiees, there's no argument from Hunter. Hunter says, Hunter is basically on his side and says, yes, we need to. And you can see, because I think the reason Hunter is very quick to get on board with helping the Wookiees without question is that, like we see at the end, that he relates to a lot of what Gungi's going through because he can see it in Omega as well. Yeah. So he basically sees the Wookiees are going to be doing the same for Gungi that he and the rest of the batch are doing for Omega, and there's a kinship there, which is why I think I think that's why the episode hits quite hard, because there's a lot of like, there's a sense of, that like Hunter says at the end, there's, they're kids, they don't get to be kids in this galaxy. So it's, that's why we're fighting.
That ending scene, I loved it so much.
Yeah. Like, it definitely reactivated my theories about Omega being force sensitive just for a second, because like I wondered
just
if she was
her like that shot of her and Gungi just praying by the trees. I was like, that is instant, like great Star Wars shot. I loved it.
It just demonstrates Omega's empathy for me, which is her biggest strength as a character. Like the fact that she is a very empathic character. She connects with people very quickly, and she sees the best in everyone, all the time. Which I get the sense is she's going to eventually be punished for, because like this is the second season, the sequel. So usually a character winds up being defeated and having to like learn a harsh lesson. Luke went through it. Han sort of did as well. So I feel like Omega is probably going to have to go through that. But I hope she doesn't lose that sense of empathy for people, because it's definitely something that has got the batch through some like rocky times for sure.
Yeah. And getting to see the ending fight in this episode, getting to see the Wookiees and the batch work together, take out the Trandoshans. The great moment with Gungi where he's going after their leader, and it's like it looks like he's about to kill him, but he doesn't.
Leaves him to the Kinrath to like feast on him, which is like so grim. That's like a Disney villain death of like the hero just standing behind the villain, just like gets brutally murdered.
It's like I'm not going to do it, but like
it's like
you can.
The planet wants retributive justice. I'm just going to let it do its thing here. Yeah. And I just, it's such a fitting end for that Trandoshan that he meets his end from the very environment that he and the Trandoshans had such disdain for and didn't take the time to understand.
I love how like the Wookiees and all the creatures on Kashyyyk like work together to like weed out this enemy and force them out of there.
It's also
but
very Avatar, isn't it? Like with
very
the way the third
Avatar.
act-
I was getting the plots mixed up in my mind. I'm like, did this happen in Tribe or did this happen in the third act of Avatar? It's getting mixed up in my head. But
There's
to
even the
see-
prayer to the trees as well.
Exactly.
Like they even
It's like, oh,
they make the
they
prayer to the
answered her. They
trees.
answered her. It's like Enya answered our calls. I'm like, wait, hold on. Which one am I talking about here? But to see, like I said, the ending of the episode, Hunter's speech at the end, I loved it. And then just to see Gungi finding a new home, and be with these Wookiees on Kashyyyk. And I'm very curious. It's like, is this it for our guy, or it's like, like how different would Fallen Order have been? It's like, oh yeah, I'm here on Kashyyyk, and it's like, oh, you're one of those Jedi kids. We have one of them like a few tribes down across the block. It's like, or is Gungi just gonna like abandon that and just focus on his connection with the Force? I'm not entirely sure.
I don't think he'll abandon being a Jedi. I kind of wonder if, because that's the thing, that ending that we're talking about now, like with Gungi basically surviving and getting to stay on Kashyyyk with this tribe. It's a lovely ending because we're seeing him get to reconnect with his culture, but it also makes me wonder about the future, because you do have to wonder, are they saving Gungi for the live action series? Because if you go by like the amount of years, like we're still like what, 19, 18 years away from A New Hope. So, and then there's another 8 years with Mando added on. So like by the time of that, Gungi's going to be an adult. He's going to be an adult Wookiee, still very young for a Wookiee, but he'll be fully grown. And I could see them wanting to bring him on board, because
could you imagine like if they end up doing like a Rey's New Order? And
see, I was just thinking with Luke, but Rey,
Luke would be
absolutely
great, but like I bet, like if Gungi ends up being like, if Rey like goes around like looking for like more Force sensitive people, and like you have people have been theorizing Grogu obviously, but like Gungi like as a part of her new order, like as an adult, that would be really cool to see. That would be
so cool. Yeah, because like
Luke as well would be great. The one thing I want, like if we get Gungi back in this show, like not just with Omega, but like if there's any other of those younglings out there, just one little reunion would be nice.
I feel like is it Petro? Is that the lead? Is that the lead guy? I feel like if anyone's I feel like if anyone's going to have bitten the dust, it's going to be him. I could see him laying down his life so the rest of them can get away.
No,
I could. It's horrible, but I could so see it.
Give us that, like, because we never got the pilot for the Youngling series that was pitched. Just give us that as like a little tidbit of like, this is what we would have gotten.
We were robbed of more Professor Hu Yang.
Yeah, I mean, Jake has been tweeting a lot this week about how like if we were just gonna get Gungi back, they should have just made that show and made that the Clone Wars sequel. And I'm like, you know what?
I wouldn't have minded it. It would have basically been like what Skeleton Crew kind of now is. You got like a bunch of kids, except they're Jedi, fleeing the Empire. That would have been cool.
Great. I would have loved it.
I wonder if that was an idea. I wonder if that was an idea that they had for a Clone Wars sequel, and then they passed. They chose the Bad Batch instead because the clone thing kind of appealed to fans more, they thought. And then what the concept of like kids fleeing the Empire or what's left of it got repurposed for Skeleton Crew, because I feel like that's an idea they might have been sitting on for a while, because it's such a novel concept within Star Wars. But I really would like to see Gungi come back as an adult, like live all the way up to Rey's era, like you said. But I would also love to see him meet Luke and be part of like Luke's Jedi Order, because I just think it would be
such a bummer if like he finds peace and he finds a new home, and then we just find out later that he just got killed. I'd be like, no. I don't think they're going to do that, because I feel like, because the thing is that like, this is what I appreciate about The Last Jedi. It was very careful with the world building. It gave us enough about Luke's Jedi Order, but it didn't give us the whole story. Yeah. So there's always room to say that it wasn't just that one training temple, that Luke took a training temple of a dozen students, but there's nothing to suggest that he never, because we know he's met Ahsoka. He's clearly familiar with Ahsoka, so there's nothing to suggest that he didn't also meet other Jedi like Cal Kestis and Gungi and maybe even Reva, and that they formed sort of like a proto Jedi Order, which I could honestly see happening. That would be sweet. It gives greater strength to what Luke was doing at the time, because his whole mission was
going around the galaxy finding Force artifacts and learning more about the Force and the Jedi. So I feel like it's inevitable that he would come across other Jedi that survived the Purge.
Especially because now that we know, like, the Return of the Jedi was originally treated as Luke is the last of the Jedi. There's no other, like, he's the only surviving one, and then Leia obviously gets revealed. Wait a minute. What in tarnation is this?
What?
Yeah,
A late arrival for the books.
I saw
Hello,
the,
Connor.
I saw the link, and I was like, you know what? I'll see if they're still going.
we were on our like very we were about to wrap up, but
we were talking about
about like Gungi and like the potential for him to eventually join either like Luke or Rey's like Jedi Order down the line.
Yeah, because I was arguing that like I feel like Luke, his whole mission has been going through the galaxy, learning more about the Jedi. So it's inevitable that he'll come across other Jedi. And I feel like with the way this has ended, with Gungi being kind of like safely protected by the Wookiees, there's a lot of room for him to come back as a grown up. Because I feel, like a Wookiee Jedi, like general audiences will go nuts for it. They love Wookiees. Like, like it's why Black Chrysanthemum was such an easy transition from comics to screen for Book of Boba Fett, because all you needed to do was like say, oh, it's a more violent Wookiee, and people were like, yeah, give us more Wookiees. Yeah, I can see that happening.
No, that'd be cool.
Yeah, no, and it would be awesome. But like as I was trying to say, it's like, the original trilogy was originally painted as like Luke and Leia were the last hopes for the Jedi. But now we know that, like, okay, well, no, Ahsoka was also out there. Cal may have survived till Return of the Jedi. Who knows? And it's just like, so obviously there's others out there. And then knowing Grogu it was also a thing at that point. It's like we know more and more Jedi are out there. So wherever they put him in the timeline again, if they do want to explore his character further, I would be okay with just it. If those fuckers killed Katuni, I'm gonna have a word with you, Dave. I'm gonna have I'm gonna send you a very strongly worded email about.
Like I said, I can cope with Petro like laying down his life for the rest of them. Anyone else would be unbearable, especially the Ithorian, the little Ithorian. I love that guy.
You don't know how worried I was in this episode that Gungi was gonna die in the Trandoshan fight.
Yeah, because they showed the Wookiees getting gunned down as well by the Trandoshans, and you felt it every time there was a Wookiee getting cut down.
I was imagine just seeing, like, it would be dark, but like the batch failing in their mission to protect a Jedi would be heartbreaking. But
that would be
get that.
That's interesting, though. I feel like that's a potential idea for a new episode, for an upcoming episode, though. Like the idea of the batch just failing in a mission because of the Empire. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily be protecting a Jedi, but it would be an interesting moment for them to kind of deal with, because it would kind of show the Empire's growing power and why they need to be fought. Because like that's kind of the building message, like we've said, that you've got to band together and take this on. You can't just like do little strikes, which is brings us back to Andor. Like it's like Luthen Rail says, do you just want to carve off tiny pieces until like just insignificant chunks, or would you want to fight these bastards for real? I feel like we're heading there for for the end of season 2 at least.
Hope so.
Well, like next week's episode is the first two-parter, which is the clone conspiracy, I believe.
It's gonna be so good.
Do you guys think it's going to involve Cody?
Probably.
Yeah. I think we're at least going to get Rampart and Crosshair back, because I was going to say the one thing I think this episode might have been missing is just a little bit of Rampart at the end, just because we got the Empire back on the story to just connect us back to our main antagonist would have been cool. But I did love how this episode ended on Kashyyyk.
Yeah,
and we don't see them like leaving. It's like, in your headcanon, if you want to be like, yeah, they just stayed on Kashyyyk for a couple weeks and just chill with the Wookiees, I'd be fine with that, because it's just clear how much they feel at home and like at peace with the Wookiees, and it's just more heartbreaking that all the other clones turned on him and that the Empire enslaves them. But oh well. Wrecker is speaking Shriwo.
You know, I could get used to this.
I just
Never gets old.
go drinking it, and that's not bad actually. It's
I love that Echo had
Great
like that
scene.
mini arc of like being like,
I'm
no,
not-
thank you.
No,
No, thank you. And then then afterwards being like, it's not bad. It's just, it was a nice moment. Just
Hey,
give just
I
anything
love
with
this
more
episode.
Wookiees, I'm always down for. So yeah, I overall I love the episode. It was just, it's probably second favorite maybe, tied with Faster. Because I really love those two. But Solitary Clone is still, I think, number one.
Yeah, this
Just
is my
for the,
second
like-
favorite episode of the season, and then
Yeah.
to me, Solitary Clone is still far and away number one. But this was such a fun episode. Unlike other planets where it's like, oh, we're going back to, it's like I'm never gonna turn down. Like Kashyyyk and Coruscant are the two that I'm never gonna turn down going back.
I'll never
I
get
just
tired
find
of those.
I just find it so funny every time Coruscant shows back. It's like, we're finally going back to Coruscant. It's like, dude, we were just there in fucking Andor, and we were
but then
doing
we
it for Mandalorian.
And we had flashbacks in Obi-Wan as
And
well.
Obi-Wan
I'm
too. And like, oh,
loving all of the Coruscant.
showing up in 10 years. I'm like, bro, it's just on TV 2 months ago, but cool. Got it.
All the Coruscant love I'm here for. And I hope this translates into Naboo as well. We've had the
like,
fight.
we could
Let's
get-
go back there.
We got the
Coruscant.
funeral.
We could get Coruscant for every single show for the next like 5 years, and still there's gonna be like we're finally going back to Coruscant, man.
Yeah, it happens every
Exactly.
time. But I mean, we got a bit of Naboo in the Padme's funeral of Tales of the Jedi, but like that's it. Like more. Live action
Naboo, it's a
Naboo,
beautiful place. It's a
Like,
beautiful place. Come
it
on.
should have happened in.
Like I've just started
nine.
reading the Greg Pak Darth Vader run, and I love that they went back there, and I love that we got to see Vader interacting with that whole world and the characters there. It was really good.
I'm just like, if Rise of Skywalker was going to be so Palpatine centric, should have gone back to Naboo. Should have showed it at least at the end of the.
No offense to Pisana, but I would have taken Naboo over Pisana, to be honest. If they were had to go somewhere to look for the
Even if it's
Wayfinder.
like in the like the ending montage, where they just do Return of the Jedi, but again, it's like if you want like throw Naboo in there. Like I still don't get why Bespin was in that, considering it wasn't in the sequel trilogy at all.
It was kind of
Man,
random.
that's been sick. Shut the fuck
I mean, I
up.
love Bespin, but it's like, oh,
I
we got
do love
Jakku,
Bespin.
we got
I do love
Endor.
Bespin.
It's like Bespin. I'm like, this is just okay. We're just doing victory celebration again. Got it. But like, I do love that scene though. Still, I mean, it hits. But yeah, no, I think we've gone over everything we want to talk about for this episode. My third time talking about it this week. But it was a great episode. I loved it, and I'm super excited for the two-parter next week. And I am very I'm in a good mood finally, where I can finally just shower a Bad Batch episode with praise and not have to be like, well, you know, I there are some things I wouldn't have like it's just like, I don't know. I feel better about it now. So thank you guys for joining us on this very late but still fun edition of our Bad Batch recaps. So yeah, we'll be back here next week for episode 7 and 8, because we got the two-parter, so that'll be a fun double episode. Don, if you want to start off, where can the people find you?
So you can find me on Twitter at Donovan Mead. I tweet a lot about Star Wars, Marvel, a lot about DC recently with that recent announcement that James Gunn made. Very exciting stuff. You can also find me on Hive at Donovan McComish. You can find me on Instagram at Donovan_McComish. And you can also find me, along with Connor and Andrew, on sweditorig.com. We write articles and a series of interconnected short stories known as SWEF, which are fan fiction, but they are linked together by a shared continuity, and we try to stay within the confines of what is established as canon, although we do still like to repurpose some stuff from Legends and use that for our own purposes. I have written one story.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard to do.
Exactly. It's really fun to do. I've written the one story called Scars of War. It released last year in June, and it centers on a clone trooper called Blister, who meets a Jedi survivor of Order 66, Shar Kun, which takes place 5 years after Revenge of the Sith. It's all about exploring like trauma and the fallout of the Clone Wars and the Empire's ascension to power, and how that affects the individuals who they targeted. So yeah, if you like Star Wars exploring pain and PTSD, then yeah, like check it out. I had fun writing all of the torment for these characters.
All right. So the cameo appearance. Do I give you a shit? Yeah. You can go plug one or two things, I guess, for being here for 5 minutes. Why not?
Connor's the cameo of the week.
Yeah, I'm the cameo of the week. It's like it's actually, we actually use the term right, unlike most of Star Wars Twitter. Yeah, I said that. And I stand by it.
No, it's true. Where's the lie?
Speaking of Twitter, you can find me there at Depa Banana talking Star Wars and Philly sports. Go Birds. SW editor ig.com/fiction. I, along with Don and Andrew, write articles and I help with the stories. I got a few in development. One's coming out in April. It's called The Knight's Welcome. It stars Cal Kestis. Yeah. Some stuff happens in it.
Some stuff happens. Also, because we went the whole episode without saying it, but you're here, so it reminded me. Shout out Matt Miknovitz for writing this episode. So always love there for Connor's boy. 2 for 2.
2 for 2 for Star.
The man pretty much never misses.
We haven't even got into his Clone Wars stuff as well, so that's gonna be a
because we're gonna be waiting a bit for that.
Yeah, I can't. I don't even
like
remember
5 years.
I don't even remember which ones he wrote, so I'm gonna have to look that up.
Umbara.
Okay, well, yeah,
Pain.
Yeah, I'll be looking that up.
Ponkrell is a bastard. Pass it on.
Umbara and the Citadel arc.
Okay, so he wrote some amazing shit. But as for myself, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Starlight Andrew. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at For the Repub Pod, and on Instagram and TikTok at For the Republic Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, For the Republic Podcast, where we put out video versions of our episodes every single time. Get us to 100 so we can start doing fun live streams and other exciting content there. But also, I was a guest this week on, like I said at the top of the episode, I was a guest on Knights of the Nerd Republic with Connor and Jared. We talked all about the Bad Batch Season 2. You can check that out. I'll link it in the description. And I put out a video essay about this episode of the Bad Batch earlier in the week on the For the Republic YouTube channel, talking about the connections this arc had with the Unfinished Clone Wars arc that we talked about at length earlier in this episode. So check that out. I had a lot of fun making that video. Recorded, edited, wrote it, and posted it in one night. So that was not a fun time, but it was worth the effort in my mind. I had a lot of fun with that video. So yeah, tune in next week for our Bad Batch Season 2 coverage, more of it, and hopefully some more of our Clone Wars stuff as well as we near the end of Season 1. So until next time, may the Force be with you. Always.